Hello everybody, this is Kirisho here. Now then, when we last left off, Izuki had just discovered a very great book, and she's been reading through it for about 20 to 30 minutes. Now, with that, she'd eventually be told by her mother that she should take a break from that, if not just get up and go outside, because she's been reading it for very long. So, she would get up, walk outside, and look to see Endeavor and Hisashi trying to coach Todoroki on a good way to use his fire. Endeavor, he's just a bit more, he's less Endeavor about it. He's actually just coaching him on, if not trying to guide him at doing this the proper way. So, he would actually be a bit more keen to use it, and he would do so, sparking his hand and immediately going to blast at a target, if not throw a fireball. This is a bit more, simplistic, I guess you can say. And he would just immediately bring out his hand, blasting it forward, just covering the entire area in front of him in fire, scorching the ground beneath him. Which is whenever Rei would just tell him that that was a bit too much. She's there to at least try and coach him on his ice quirk, while just sitting down with a cup of tea. She's explaining to him that sorry about that, guys. Now, she is explaining to him that ice is a very simple element too. It's cold, it's simple. You just need to know the proper way to control it, just like fire. Although fire is a bit different. Here's the best example I can give you. What you just did now, look at it. It burned things, it destroyed things, yes, but it's not as simple for that. It can also spark things, if not recreate them. Ice is a bit more, harder to explain, as she would just bring her finger up, tapping it to her tea. Todoroki watches as the steam from it fades away, and she immediately just turns her tea upside down, as the tea would just fall out and be a bit weird. It is frozen into a solid, which is when she would say that this is different. Ice can hold things in place, yes, but it can also preserve them. Ice is a bit more about control and being key on things. Initially, you're offense and defense at the same time. Your quirk is perfect. It's a good way to see things. You can get through any obstacle and hold things up and support them with your ice. While your fire can burn through things to allow you to save people. You'd be a good rescue hero, but you'd also be good in combat. Which is whenever she would immediately look over to Izuki. Why is my throat hurting? And she would immediately just say that her, however, she's a bit different. She's just as, if not even more, capable than you may be. Because her quirk is very strong, but she just does not have control. Or do you, sweetheart? No, not really. It's kind of about my emotions. Oh yes, that's correct, the empath thing. I'm sorry. Oh no, you're fine. And this is whenever Inko would walk out, as she would just immediately say that that is a bit, different. And the whole empath ability just makes sure her emotions need to be stable. Now, with that being said, this is going to be where. Sorry about that, guys. Now, this is going to be where Izuki, she would immediately just think that she needs to work on this, if not catch up. Her quirk is strong, but without being able to control it, she has no potential. Controlling it being the main aspect she needs to focus on. She would immediately just begin by releasing her darkness as it somewhat engulfs her, if not covers her arms and her lower body. Along with the fact that it does start coming out of her eyes, if not around her face. They would be looking at this as she immediately just holds out her hand and immediately just throws out concussive blast, hitting two of the targets. She immediately just keeps thinking to herself that she needs to stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. While she's doing so, she just keeps blasting, if not hitting the targets over and over again. As she would also try creating, if not messing around with her shadow. Now, while she is messing around with her shadow, she does find that this is a bit harder. She would try making the giant bird she saw in her book, and she somewhat does it with better success. She does create it to be bigger, and if not larger, and it's around the size of her dad. She's just looking at it as she does somewhat look at the book, if not think of the picture in her head. As she would be recreating it and actually just molding it to look better. Now, she immediately just begins by having Momo walk out and look at this going on. Okay, sorry guys. So, if you guys are wondering as to why there are so many cuts in this part, someone keeps opening our back door. And I know for a fact that that is very loud. And I'm pretty sure I just heard the one in the garage go off not too long ago, so I did have to keep it paused. Now, as Izuki is actually manipulating, if not controlling her darkness, to form these giant figures, Momo would have walked out and saw this. Along with the fact that her bodyguard, she actually was somewhat holding Momo, if not holding her hand out, hardening her body. So Momo would not get hurt if she lost control. Now, Izuki would then just say from her book, Azrath Matrilian Zinthos, as her eyes would somewhat light up. If not, she would begin by just holding out her hands, connecting with the darkness, as she does manipulate them, actually watching as this giant figure does walk in front of her dad and somewhat turn to his size. As she would just start by controlling it to look like him, if not have a simplified version of his costume, and some details about him, to be vaguely humanoid, which he would see. Now, he would comment on this saying that this is very good. In fact, he even got my nose right, which people would begin to laugh at. Now, with that, let us cut to about one, if not another year later. Izuki is now 8 years old, as she's been able to gain more control, and in fact, somewhat master her darkness. Because she has been just trying over and over and over again to get this detail right. As she would finally be at the point where she can just create a bird, if not different animals, from her darkness, allowing it to be better and more malleable for her. Not feeling as difficult, if not taking as much time. Whereas an ordinary bird, whenever she first started, would have taken hours upon hours of the day to just try and make. I want to say she can just hold up her hand and immediately think of the picture, creating the bird in about a minute, if not a couple minutes. However, that's still being a bit more difficult, since she has to get every little detail right about it. Because I do want to say, just because it's a quirk, she would have to follow some laws of aerodynamics with the bird. It's a bit more iffy. Now, with that, she would have to think about what she wants to do. Should she train or should she try and make a hero costume? She has seen different versions of her parents, and she just thinks that her mom's white cloak may not be the best option. Since, well, it's not really her color. So it's more difficult to think about. So, this is whenever she would just think that she should come up with a different version of it then. If not, just add a bit of a hoodie style to it. Since she really doesn't like having she doesn't really like having people see her face, as she is a bit shy. She is thinking about this as she would notice that some of the things she would put on her costume, if not from designing it, may be a bit more difficult. Since the cape would have to be bulletproof, fireproof, and certain other things. Along with the fact that her hero costume would actually need to be designed for, well, her darkness, so that she can properly use it. She's also trying to think about different support items, if not things she can use. If not, she's at least thought about covering the front portion of her face with somewhat of a plastic to metal visor, so that she can at least properly monitor her heart rate and the way she feels. But with the fact that that would obscure her vision, she would have thought against it. Now then, that being said, she would have gone home and actually thought about what to do now. She's thinking more about this as she does see her dad training in the backyard. She watches as her mother is actually tossing, if not throwing around, different objects at him. Now, she is thinking about this, and she has been able to somewhat encase herself, if not try and make a suit made of darkness, as she has tried doing those whole fancy, if not different things with her quirk. Since she can create animals, she thought about clothing and trying to manipulate, if not design, a hero costume that way. But this would have been a bit more difficult, as whenever she was at least wearing this darkness costume, as you can call it, she found it to be a bit harder to move in and actually control. Whenever she fell, she actually did bring her arms out, actually smashing her elbow into the staircase she had downstairs, which her parents would have immediately saw and ran over to, finding that she's not injured, but that at least still did hurt her. Looking at the staircase, seeing that there's a visible dent, if not hole through it. So, at least learning something about her quirk that she did not know about, which she would have written down. Now, from going over the notes, she did see that this happening, she may be able to somewhat protect herself with her quirk. As she would immediately just bring up her hands, thinking about this more. She would imagine the costume in her head as it somewhat begins to form around her, if not coat her body. She then would expand it outwards, as she does expand, turning a giant bubble, if not sphere. Now, as that happens, her parents would have heard her come in, if not walk outside. She is encased in this bubble, as she does tell her mom that she's been trying to figure something out, and she thinks she found a good way, explaining that the incident on the stairs may have proven that she can use this in a defensive way. She's a bit more curious, as she would walk over, just knocking on the bubble, until she would actually somewhat start tapping harder. Until her dad immediately just walks over, somewhat just throwing a bit of a small punch on it. As they would have saw her face somewhat turn a bit sour, asking if she's okay. She would have said yes, as they would have continuously just wrapped up the pace at which they are throwing their punches. They would be somewhat just throwing light taps, if not getting a little heavier. Now, Eventually, seeing that she actually does not look very well, they would just ask her if she's sick because they are really concerned. Which is whenever she would just drop the bubble, explaining that that felt a bit weird. She somewhat felt like she was going to puke, but that's only the best way she can describe it. Which is whenever they would, well, her mom would just say that might have been part of a mental strain. If you overuse your quirk or try to, if you do try to overuse your quirk, it may not work because you might actually be doing more damage to your body than good. Yes, it's good to help people, but if you're too weak, then you might not be able to. Which, they're not meaning that physically weak is just that your willpower. You have to have the drive of a hero, and the will to do so. Along with the fact that you need concentration, so that you can do it properly, without, well, messing up. You have to be able to stay calm under pressure, otherwise you cannot stay calm at all. And already that for you, dear, is very difficult. Now, with that being said, I do actually want to wrap up this episode, as Izuki would have learned that she can, well, wear down her mental willpower by just using this thing. So, yes. Now then, I do hope you guys enjoyed the video, and for all the random cuts you guys hear in this, I'm sorry. It often gets loud whenever I decide to record. So, yeah. I do hope you guys enjoyed.